As the Cold War moved into its later decades, American espionage crossed a critical threshold. Gathering information was no longer enough. Listening was no longer enough. Watching was no longer enough. The focus began to shift towards something far more dangerous: control. Inside classified facilities, far from public view, U.S. intelligence agencies explored a new question: not just how to understand the enemy, but how to influence behavior itself. If information was power, then the ultimate form of power would be the ability to shape human decisions. This mindset led to some of the most controversial operations in the history of American intelligence. Among them was a secret program that would remain hidden for years, a program known as MK-Ultra. Officially, MK-Ultra did not exist. There were no press releases, no public debates, no oversight. The project was driven by fear. Fear that rival powers, particularly the Soviet Union, might discover ways to manipulate the human mind. If the enemy could control thoughts, extract secrets, or reprogram loyalty, the consequences would be catastrophic. So the United States decided it could not afford to fall behind. Under MK-Ultra, intelligence operatives authorized experiments designed to explore the limits of human consciousness. Psychoactive drugs, sensory deprivation, hypnosis, psychological stress. In many cases, the subjects did not know they were part of an experiment. Some were civilians, some were prisoners, some were patients seeking medical help. The goal was never fully defined, only the belief that the mind itself could become a battlefield. Years later, when fragments of the program were exposed, the revelations shocked the public. Documents described tests that crossed ethical boundaries, lives were damaged, trust was broken. MK-Ultra became a symbol of how far espionage had gone and how easily fear could justify almost anything. But mind control experiments were only one aspect of the darker side of American intelligence. Throughout the Cold War, information gathered through espionage was repeatedly used to shape events behind the scenes. Governments were not only observed, they were influenced. Covert operations were launched to destabilize regimes viewed as hostile to U.S. interests. Political movements were quietly supported or undermined. Economic pressure was applied using intelligence gathered in secret. To the public, political change often appeared organic. Protests, coups, sudden shifts in leadership. Behind the scenes, intelligence agencies had already mapped vulnerabilities and applied pressure where it mattered most. Espionage became a silent architect of history. As surveillance expanded, so did its reach. Technology erased distance, signals traveled instantly, and intelligence agencies adapted. Satellites grew more advanced, interception systems more precise, data collection more relentless. By the final years of the Cold War, espionage was no longer just about enemies abroad. It had become part of the global system itself. Information was collected continuously, stored, analyzed, cross-referenced. Patterns mattered more than single secrets. This shift marked a turning point. Espionage was no longer reactive, it was predictive. The goal was not only to know what adversaries were doing, but to anticipate what they would do next. This gave the United States an unprecedented strategic advantage, but it also created a new reality, a world where privacy became fragile, where trust was conditional, where surveillance was constant, even if invisible. When the Cold War officially ended in 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union, many believed the age of espionage would fade with it, that the shadow war would finally come to an end. It did not. The structures built during the Cold War remained, the technologies evolved, the mindset endured. What changed was not espionage itself, but how deeply it became woven into modern life. Today's world of digital surveillance, data collection, and intelligence monitoring did not appear overnight. It was forged during decades of silent conflict. The Cold War taught one lasting lesson: that the most powerful battles are not always fought in public. They are fought in classified rooms, in intercepted signals, in information no one was meant to see.
The United States did not win the Cold War with tanks alone, or missiles, or armies. It won by knowing more, by seeing first, by acting before others could react. But that victory came with a cost, because once surveillance becomes normal, once secrecy becomes routine, once information becomes the ultimate weapon, the line between protection and control begins to blur. And the question left behind is not about the past, it is about the future. In a world shaped by espionage, who is really watching whom?